All right, friends, I am back today with our next few chapters in our lesson. We have been reading Christmas in Camelot, and we are on chapter 8. When we last left Jack and Annie, they were in Camelot, and a Christmas night had came and wanted King Arthur to send some knights to the other world to bring back the Christmas joy and courage and all that other stuff. And they were very adamant nobody was going to the other world anymore. And then Annie said they would go. So now Jack and Annie are just now coming to the underworld. They just passed into the gate using the magic cloak that the Christmas night had given them, that they were invisible. So now we're ready to read about chapter 8, the other world. The other world was completely different from the dark, cold world that Jack and Annie had just left behind. They were standing at the edge of a pale green meadow. The meadow was bathed in warm, rosy sunlight. 3 horses, one black, one brown, one gray, were grazing nearby. Pardon me, guys. On a hillside beyond the meadow, red and purple flowers sparkled like bright buttons. So nice here, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. Maybe we won't need this anymore. He pulled the hood off of his cloak, off their heads. He was ready to see Annie's face and to see himself. What was the first rhyme again? Asked Annie. Jack took out his notebook. He found the first rhyme and read aloud. Beyond the iron gate, the keepers of the cauldron wait. He looked around warily. Wonder where the keepers of the cauldron are, he said. What do you mean? Asked Annie. We just sneaked past them, remember? Whoosh. I don't know, said Jack. The rhyme says beyond the iron gate. Those guards were standing in front of the gate. They weren't beyond it. Shh, said Annie. Listen. From over the hill came a faint sound of sweet, joyful music. Maybe the keepers of the cauldron are playing that music, said Annie. Maybe, said Jack. He listened for a moment and smiled. The music made him feel light and happy. Let's go meet the keepers, said Annie. Not so fast, said Jack. Shouldn't we be invisible again, just in case? I guess so, Annie said, sighing. Jack pulled the hood of his cloak over their heads. Together they started walking invisibly across the soft meadow. They passed the 3 horses and climbed the flower-covered hill. At the top, they looked down. Oh, man, said Jack. The hill sloped gently down into a misty green glade. In the middle of the glade, a band of musicians played flutes and pipes, drums and violins. Around the band, hundreds of dancers danced in a huge circle. The keepers of the cauldron, said Annie. The dancers and musicians were smiling and laughing. They wore blue coats and green coats, white gowns and yellow gowns. They wore sparkling red slippers and hats with colored feathers. The dancers looked like people, except they had all had glittery gold skin and wings that shimmered in the mist like spun silver. They're beautiful, said Annie. Yeah, they are, said Jack. I don't think we need to be invisible with them, said Annie. I think you're right, said Jack. He and Annie threw off the red cloak. They left it in a dewy glass and ran down the hillside to the winged dancers. The dancers paid no attention to them. They just kept going around and around in their joyous circle. I feel like dancing with them, said Annie. Me too, said Jack. It was strange. He was usually shy about dancing. He wanted to join this dance more than anything. Jack pulled off his backpack. As he sat down, he saw 3 swords lying in the grass. But he didn't stop to wonder about them. The music was calling. The winged dancers broke their circle and welcomed Jack and Annie into their dance. Annie held Jack's right hand as she grasped the slender golden hand of the dancer on her left, or his left. The dancer smiled down at him. Like the others, she was as tall as a grown-up, but she didn't have any lines or wrinkles on her face. All the dancers looked very young, yet ancient at the same time. As Jack danced around in the circle, his heart leaped. His spirits soared. His glasses fell off, but he didn't care. He kept dancing. As he danced, everything in his mind became a blur. He forgot about Morgan and Camelot. He forgot about the quest for memory and imagination. He forgot all his fears and worries. Jack, look! Annie cried. Jack looked at her. Hi, he shouted, laughing. No, don't look at me, she called. Look at there, across the circle. I can't see, he said. 3 nights, Annie shouted. 3 nights dancing. Great, shouted Jack. No, Jack, they look awful. They look sick. Annie yelled. She pulled away from the circle and tumbled back into the grass. Jack, she called, stop dancing. But Jack didn't want to stop. He wanted to dance to the wild music forever. Forever and ever and ever. There's Jack and Annie dancing with the winged creatures. Let's see if I can find the knights. I don't see the knights on here. Do you think that maybe this dance might trap? Let's read into chapter 9, the Lost Knights, and find out. Annie chased Jack around the circle. Stop, Jack, she cried. Stop! She grabbed his shirt and tried to pull him out of the dance. Let go, Annie, he said. Leave me alone. But Annie wouldn't let go. Finally, she pulled so hard that Jack broke hands with the dancers and tumbled backward into the grass. The winged dancers didn't seem to notice. They closed their circle and kept going around and around. Why did you do that? Said Jack, sitting up. I was having fun. Look at the knights, said Annie. See them? Jack couldn't see. The world was spinning before his eyes. He ached to get back into the dance. Here, I found your glasses, said Annie. Put them on. Jack put on his glasses. He peered at the circle of dancers. He caught sight of armor glinting in the sunlight. He saw 3 knights dancing in a row. 2 of them looked very young. The third looked much older. As they came closer, Jack saw their faces. All the joy of the music drained out of him. The knights looked tired and sick. Their hair and beards were long and scraggly. Their faces were bony and pale. Their eyes stared wildly, and their lips were frozen in ghostly smiles. What's wrong with them? Asked Jack. They can't stop dancing, said Annie. They're dancing themselves to death. They must be the lost knights from Camelot, said Jack. We have to save them, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. He tried to clear his mind and think. What about this? We get back to the dance. We take places between the dancers and the knights. Yes, then we can pull the knights out of the circle, said Annie. Wait, said Jack. What if I can't stop dancing again? Just don't let yourself get caught by the music, said Annie. You have to think about something else. Think about why we're here. Think about Morgan. Okay, said I'll try. Jack and Annie crouched in the grass. They watched and waited as the knights danced closer and closer and closer. Now, said Annie. Jack and Annie rushed forward. They broke into the circle on either side of the knights. As Jack started dancing, his feet seemed to fly to the beat of the drum. He felt a wave of great joy. His worries left him. Now, Jack, cried Annie, pull away. But Jack didn't want to pull away. The music rang in his ears. Nothing mattered except dancing. Jack, pull away now, Annie shouted again. Jack shook his head, trying to shake off Annie's voice. Morgan, Morgan, Annie yelled. The word Morgan made Jack stumble a bit in the dance. Morgan, Morgan, Annie shouted. Jack stumbled again. Then he used all his might to stop himself from dancing. He let go of the hand of the dancer on his right and threw himself out of the dance, pulling the knight on his left with him. Annie and the other 2 knights tumbled back with them onto the grass. Just as before, the dancers didn't seem to notice. They closed their circle and kept going round and round in their joyous, timeless dance. Now we're on chapter 10, the Knight's Gifts. The 3 knights lay in the grass, fighting for breath. The dance. We must stop. Stop dancing, gasped the older knight. You have stopped. We pulled you away, said Annie. The knight looked up at her and Jack. He had a rough, craggy face. Who are you? He asked in a hoarse voice. Friends, said Annie. She spoke loudly to be heard over the music. We come from King Arthur's castle. We're on a quest, said Jack, to get to the water of memory and imagination. To save Camelot, said Annie. Camelot? Whispered the knight. We come from Camelot. I don't recognize you. We're just visiting, said Annie. But we know all about you. You're Sir Lancelot. Sir Lancelot, aren't you? Yes, breathed the knight. And Sir Percival and Sir Galahad? Said Jack. Yes, my son, Galahad, said the knight. King Arthur thinks you're lost forever, said Annie. Sir Lancelot closed his eyes. The dance, he said. It made us forget. I know, said Jack. The dancers must be the keepers of the cauldron. You can't get past them without getting caught up in their dance. Father, we must find the water. Sir God tried to sit up, but he was too weary. He lay back in the grass. That's okay. We're here now, said Annie. You should all rest. Sir Galahad closed his eyes. Yeah, don't worry, said Jack. Annie and I will find the magic water for Camelot. But you, you're just children, said Sir Percival, the third knight. You must wait for us. There's no time to wait, said Jack. Camelot is dying, said Annie. We have to hurry. Then you must take this, said Sir Galahad. He reached into a leather pouch that hung around his shoulder. He took out a silver cup. With a trembling hand, the young knight gave the cup to Annie. A cup, she said. Take this too, said Sir Percival. He pulled a small wooden box from a bag that hung from his belt. He handed it to Jack. Jack opened the lid. In the middle of the box was a pointer with markings all around it. A compass, said Jack. And this, said Sir Lancelot. He took a silk cord from around his neck. A glass key hung from the cord. A key, whispered Annie. Lancelot handed the key to Annie. She and Jack looked at it closely. Then Annie hung it around her neck. When she turned back, the knights were fast asleep. Sweet dreams, Annie said gently. You guys need a long nap. There were the three knights. Now they have a box, the key, and the cup, or in the box was the compass. And so now that they can go on to the next part. Jack and Annie stood up. I think we have all of our gifts now, said Jack, but I better make sure. He hurried to get to his backpack. It was lying in the grass near the knight's swords. He pulled out his notebook and read the second rhyme. For gifts you will need, the first from me, then a cup, a compass, and finally a key. Great, said Annie. We've got the cloak from the Christmas night and the other three gifts from them. The quest is really easy. Jack shook his head. Not over yet, he said. We still have to find the cauldron with the water of memory and imagination. We'll find it, said Annie. Read the third rhyme. Jack looked in his notebook and read the third rhyme aloud. If you survive to complete your quest, the secret door lies to the west. No problem, said Annie. We survived the guards and the dance. Now the compass can show us how to go west, and the key will unlock the secret door, and we'll fill the cup with water from the cauldron. See, it's all easy. Jack still felt worried. A little too easy, he thought. What are we waiting for? Said Annie. Let's go. Jack looked down at the compass. Okay, he said. The pointer's pointing north, so west must be that way. He pointed left toward a thicket of bushes and a small tree. Great, said Annie. Here, carry the cup in your pack. Jack put his notebook and the silver cup into his pack. Then he and Annie started into the thicket. They ducked under branches and pushed past bushes. Thorns scraped their hands. Twigs snapped against their faces. Jack kept checking the compass. Could they really be searching in the right place? He wondered. What kind of door would they find in a tangled thicket? Listen, said Annie. It's so quiet now. The thicket had grown eerily silent. No birds called from the bushes. No music could be heard in the distance. Jack checked the compass once more. It still says we're going west, he says. I just hope this thing works. It works, said Annie softly. Look. Annie was holding back a leafy branch. She pointed to a rocky hillside beyond the thicket. Halfway up the hillside was a ledge. Between two giant boulders on the ledge was a shining glass door. Chapter 11. The Crystal Cave. The secret door, whispered Jack. Yes, said Annie. Jack dropped the compass into his pack. Then he and Annie scrambled through the bushes and climbed up the rocks to the door. Annie took Sir Lancelot's glass key from around her neck. She slipped the key into the keyhole. She turned the key slowly. Clink! Yippee! Annie said softly. She pushed open the door. Beyond the door was a huge glittering cave. The floor, walls, and ceiling were made of clear crystal. Jack and Annie stepped inside. The cave was with dancing streams of purple light. It's so bright, whispered Jack. Where's all the purple light coming from? There, said Annie. She pointed to a crack on the far side of the cave. Let's look. They crossed the cave and peered through the crack into a room. Along the brilliant crystal walls of the room were 4 doorways. In the far corner of the room was a fire. The fire blazed with leaping purple flames. Over the flames hung a gleaming golden cauldron. There it is, whispered Jack. Wow, whispered Annie. The cauldron with the water of memory and imagination, whispered Jack. I know, whispered Annie. Let's go. They squeezed through the crack, then walked toward the gleaming cauldron. Jack reached into his pack and pulled out Sir Galahad's silver cup. Cauldron's too high, said Annie. We can't get to the water. Here, take this, said Jack, handing her the cup. Climb on my back. He bent over and Annie climbed on piggyback. Jack stood up shakily. Hurry, he said. You're heavy. Can't reach it, said Annie. Move closer. Jack staggered forward a few steps. Stretching as far as she could, Annie reached again. She skimmed water from the top of the bubbling cauldron, filling the silver cup. Got it, she whispered. Now set me down slowly. Annie held the cup with both hands. Jack slowly his knees and Annie climbed carefully off back. They stared silently for a moment at the water, memory, and imagination in the cup. It was clear and shimmering. Now we can save Morgan, said Annie. Just then, Jack smelled something strange. It was like the smell of rotten seaweed. He heard weird gurgling sounds behind them. He and Annie turned around. A giant, slimy, mud-colored creature crawled out through one of the doorways. The creature was long and scaly like a crocodile, but much, much bigger. Wings that looked as if they'd spun from 1,000 spider webs. It had glowing red eyes and long, curled claws. Looks like a dragon to me. The creature opened its huge jaws. Strands of drool dripped from its sharp-pointed. The creature hissed and hot blue flame shot from its mouth. Another monster crawled through a different doorway, quickly followed by a third and a fourth. Yikes, said Annie. The real keepers of the cauldron, whispered Jack. Chapter 12. Fire with fire. The 4 real keepers of the cauldron crawled closer to Jack and Annie, hissing and snorting blue fire. What do we do now? Whispered Annie. I don't know, said Jack. We're trapped. I have an idea, whispered Annie. Let's drink the water. What? Said Jack. It's the water of memory and imagination, right? Said Annie. So maybe if we drink it, we can imagine a way to escape. That's crazy, said Jack. The keepers crawled closer, snorting more blue flame and filling the air with their rotten stench. Okay, let's try it, said Jack. Annie took a sip from the silver cup, then handed it to Jack. His hands trembled as he held the cup to his lips and took a sip. The water tasted sweet, bitter, and spicy all at the same time. Jack gave the cup back to Annie. Now imagine we're saved, she said. Jack closed his eyes. He tried to imagine being saved. He pictured the 4 keepers crawling back through their doorways. Okay, ready to fight, said Annie. Jack opened his eyes. What? Fight? Annie set the silver cup on the floor. Now, she said. Suddenly, Jack felt like he'd been hit by a bolt of lightning. His fear slipped away. He was filled with strength and fury. Without thinking, he lunged with Annie toward the wood fire under the cauldron. They each grabbed 2 long, straight branches from the edge of the fire. They raised them high in the air. The branches blazed with purple fire like flaming swords. Ah! Jack and Annie shouted. The 4 keepers hit louder than before. Great balls of blue fire exploded from their mouths and nostrils. Jack and Annie slashed the air with their fiery weapons, jabbing at the keepers. They fought fire with fire, blue flame with purple flame. Back, back, they shouted. With each jab and shout, Jack felt stronger and braver. Waving their burning branches, he and Annie drove the keepers toward the walls. The keepers' blue flames grew weaker and weaker, as if they were running out of fuel. Finally, one by one, each keeper slunk back into the doorway from which they had come. When all the keepers had disappeared, Jack and Annie placed a burning branch in front of each of the 4 doorways to keep the monsters from coming back out. Then they brushed off their hands. Let's go, Annie said coolly. Jack nodded. Annie carefully picked up the silver cup of water from the cauldron. Then she and Jack squeezed through the narrow crack and strode through the bright crystal cave. They stepped out into the daylight. The glass key was still in the keyhole. Jack calmly locked the door behind them. He handed the key to Annie. Then Jack's knees gave way and he sank to the ground. And that is where we will stop today. We have one more day to read the rest of our book. And tomorrow we will read chapter 13 called Your Horses Are Waiting. All right, guys. So I will see you tomorrow.